The Light of Mangaya Village. Mangaya Village was a small, quiet place hidden between dusty roads and green hills. The people there were strong and hardworking, but life was not always easy. When the sun rose, the village was full of life. Women swept their yards, children laughed as they walked to school, and men prepared for the day's work. But when the sun disappeared behind the hills, a heavy darkness slowly covered the entire village. Rindani stepped outside and looked around. The entire Mangaya village was covered in darkness. Only the moon and the distant stars lit the sky. She felt something deep in her heart, a mixture of sadness and determination. Softly, she whispered to herself, "Why must our village live in darkness?" Her grandmother, who had been watching her quietly, walked closer and placed a gentle hand on her shoulder. "My child," she said softly, "sometimes the world waits for someone brave enough to change it." Rindani looked at the dark houses around her and made a promise that night. "One day, I will bring light to Mangaya village." From that moment, Rindani carried that promise in her heart. School became her mission. She studied harder than ever before. Mathematics, science, electricity. She wanted to understand how power worked and how it could change lives. The journey was not easy. There were days she felt tired, days she doubted herself, and days when life felt too heavy. But whenever she thought about giving up, she remembered the dark nights in Mangaya village and the children who struggled to study like she once did. Years later, Rindani finally returned home. But she was no longer the little girl with a candle. She had become an electrical engineer. With a team of workers and equipment, Rindani helped repair electrical lines and install new systems in the village. The whole community gathered, watching with hope in their eyes. Finally, the moment arrived. Someone called out, "Switch it on!" The switch was turned. Suddenly, lights appeared. One house, then another, until the entire Mangaya village was glowing with bright light. Children screamed with excitement. Elders wiped tears from their eyes. The village that had lived in darkness for so many years was finally shining. Rindani stood quietly, looking at the lights. Her grandmother walked slowly toward her and held her hand tightly. With tears of pride, she said, "You kept your promise, my child. You didn't just bring electricity. You brought hope, dignity, and a future for Mangaya village." Most homes had no reliable electricity. At night, families used candles or small paraffin lamps. The dim light flickered against the walls, and sometimes the wind would blow the flame out, leaving everything in silence and darkness. In one of the small houses lived a young girl named Rindani. Every night she sat at a small wooden table, trying to finish her homework under a weak candlelight. Her eyes would grow tired, but she refused